Hey guys, it's Sarah and today's BookList Thursday. This is a video series I'm doing with my friend Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library. I will have her channel linked down below. Make sure you go check her out. And for today's book list, we are talking about books that have been completely hyped up and do we think that they were worth it? So these are all books that were hyped. We read them. What were our thoughts and opinions, and did they live up to the hype for us in our minds? So I'm going to give you 5 books off my shelves that I have read because of the hype, a lot of them, and if I thought they were worth it. So let's get into this. The first one that is really hyped up, and this author in particular is hyped up as well, and that's Frederick Bachman, and I read A Man Called Eva. I adored this. So for me, this definitely lived up to the hype. And this one follows an older gentleman who has recently lost his wife, and he is kind of thinking, and maybe it's his time as well, even though he's not sick. It's not really looking like it's his time, but he feels like it is. And he's pretty much like a grumpy old man. And you see him come into contact with some new neighbors of his who are kind of young and hip and blah, blah, blah. And their interactions are so funny. The way he reacts to people is so funny. And I saw a lot of personality traits from people that I know in him as well. And he's a grumpy old man. So I thought that was kind of funny. And I thought it was adorable. And I loved him. Now, this one was definitely hyped up because this author is extremely popular. He has quite a few books out, and a lot of people read and love his books. I am one of them now. This is the only book I've read from him so far, but I do plan to read more this year. And I thought this book was so charming, and I loved Uva, and it was fantastic. So definitely for me, I think this was worth the hype. The next one is a book that came out, I believe in 2018, pretty early on, and that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And this one I listened to the audiobook of it, and that's how I consumed it. And I don't know that I necessarily recommend that because I didn't physically read it. And then one of my subscribers was kind enough to send me a copy of this book, but I think I would end up rereading this and I would do it physically. I might get a little bit more out of it, but I did really enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars, but I feel like if I read it again, it could be a 5-star read for me. I think just reading it physically might be the better way to go. But this follows Eleanor, who, okay, it's never stated that she's on the spectrum, but I think that maybe she is. And just the way that she interacts with people and the way that she responds to, you know, social things that are happening around her. And she's very, very socially awkward. And the things that she says to people is so funny and very particular, I guess. She reminds me a lot of Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. So if that gives you any kind of like ideas of what her personality is like, very much like him. And she ends up working with a coworker to help save a man's life. And because of that, her and this coworker build this friendship, and you really see them, their friendship blossom. And I really did enjoy it. I really did. I really loved Eleanor as a character. She was one of my favorite characters last year. And I definitely want to read more from Gail Honeyman now. But again, I think I would want to reread this physically and see if I get more out of it than I did with the audiobook. I think with the audiobook, I maybe have been a little bit distracted and didn't quite get everything out of it that I needed. But because of that, I think it hindered my enjoyment a little bit. Doesn't mean that it's not worth the hype. I think that it definitely is. I think everybody should give this one a try, especially if you like, you know, contemporary books and stuff. But yeah, so definitely worth the hype, I think, even though it didn't live up to it completely for me. But I think that might have been my fault. This next one has been hyped up a whole lot lately in the past couple of months even, because it had a TV show come out on Lifetime. And so more people were picking up and reading it because of that. So it's gotten a little bit more buzz, almost like a second life lately, which makes me very happy. And that is You by Caroline Kepnes. This is one of my favorite books of all time, like top 5. I love this book so much. This book is told in a very unique way in that it is told from the perspective of a stalker. So you are in his head, you are getting his internal dialogue. You're getting everything from his point of view. But he's a stalker, and you see him stalk people, and like you see it happening, and you know it's not okay. But because you're getting it from his perspective, you're seeing him rationalize everything. You're seeing him do these things that you know are wrong, but you're excusing it because you understand where he's coming from, because you're in his head. And as his internal dialogue is going, he talks to his victims the way that he would talk to his victims, like saying you all the time. You know, you are walking into the store, you just picked up your mail, and you are just begging for attention, and I'm going to give it to you. And that also made it very creepy, because it makes it feel like he's talking to you personally, and you're just like, so I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Joe is one of my favorite characters, even though he's not a good person, but he's one of my favorite characters. I thought it was brilliant, and it really makes you question everything that you believe in because you're excusing what he's doing, and it's crazy. The show is very good as well. I thought it was really, really well done. I do plan to reread this very soon and do a video comparing the show and the book, but I do need to give it a reread because it's been a while since I've read it, and I just watched the show, so I kind of want to refresh myself on it. And I do plan to listen to the audiobook. I've heard the audiobook is incredible, so I'm going to be listening to it upon my reread, but I will have that, I'm hoping, in the month of January. That'd be great. If not, maybe February. We'll see when I can get to it, but it's fantastic. I loved it. Again, it's in my top 5 favorite books of all time, so obviously lives up to the hype for me. This next one was, I would consider, one of the most hyped books of the year last year. So many people were talking about it and reading it and everything, including myself. But the hype was so big, I was almost scared to pick it up because I was afraid it wasn't going to live up to it. And that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This was also a summer book club read from The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon hosted like a little summer read thing, which was a lot of fun. And you got to see him read through the book and kind of share his thoughts. And then he interviewed her, had her on the show and stuff, and it was really cool. So not only was BookTube buzzing about it, but everybody was buzzing about it, definitely because of the Jimmy Fallon thing. And I read this with Lindsay. Actually, we did a buddy read, and oh my gosh, was it fantastic. This was one of my favorite books of last year, and it definitely lived up to the hype. It was extremely magical and very, very smart, the way that the magic worked and the way that the kingdom was set up, and just the character dynamics were fantastic. And it was so much action. It was like, it started off action-y and then just kind of kept going the whole way. I never really got bored in this book, even if it wasn't super action. It was just something was always going on and something was always important. There didn't seem to be any lulls where there wasn't important stuff happening. And I really appreciated that. So I absolutely love this book. So definitely lived up to the hype for me, for sure. And book number 2 comes out, I believe, in February. I've already pre-ordered it. I'm so excited to read it. And yeah, so I would say probably the most hyped book of 2018 from what I have seen going around, lived up to it. All right, now let's talk about a book that was hyped that I did not think lived up to it. Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I just read this in December, and I did not like it, which was a shock for me because I really enjoy dark thrillers. That's kind of my preferred genre. I like really dark thrillers, and that's what this is. But it was slow. It was a very, very slow book. And at first I didn't quite mind it. Sometimes I like a slow build or whatever, but even when it got to the parts that had some action in it, it wasn't quite enough for me. And I appreciated it that it was a very intricate story. It follows the murder or the death of a daughter of a horror film director. And he pretty much has a cult following. Basically, he's very peculiar and mysterious, and people just flock to him because of that. Now, we follow a reporter who kind of got into some trouble involving this family, and once he learns about the death of this director's daughter, he kind of throws himself back into the mix and tries to figure out what happened to her. And I don't know, I didn't like any of the characters, really. I really didn't like any of them. And I don't know. It was so slow. That was the problem. It was very slow. And then when it did get to, like good parts, they still weren't that great to me. So the payoff for me wasn't great. I did not like the ending at all. And I ended up just being very disappointed, and I gave this one 2 stars. So for me, this one did not live up to the hype. I understood the purpose of it, and I understood the creativity and how intricate it was. So I do give her credit for that. And I don't know. I didn't end up enjoying it at all. And it was very, very disappointing. So for me, this one did not live up to the hype. All right, guys, that is top 5 books from my shelves that either did or did not live up to the hype for me. So let me know down below if you guys have read any of these, what your thoughts were on them. And definitely let me know if you guys have read any hyped books that you ended up being disappointed in. If you thought the hype was a little bit too much, I want to know that down below. And make sure you go check out Lindsay's video. I'm excited to see what she talks about today too. I will have her channel linked down below, and we will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.